So you're sitting up, you smoke it, you're doing your countdown with your arms out, and you fall back.
Okay.
And I'm like, all right, sounds easy enough, but I'm nervous, like real nervous. And so
What were you nervous about? That you thought you were gonna die?
I didn't do any research on 5-MeO DMT because everybody has talked about ibogaine and how powerful the ibogaine is and how it's curing addiction and how powerful it is, that I didn't even take the time to
Research that.
research the 5-MeMT. And so when they're telling me I'm going to experience death, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, oh, I'm going to what? You know? And so I'm like, well, I would like to do it outside. I've always heard, you know, that I liked being outside after ibogaine. It made me feel good being out there thinking about nothing. So I was like, I want to go. I just want to do it outside. So, and the other two had never done it outside, if I remember correctly. So they were like, yeah, I'll do it outside. So they're like, all right, we're going to go set up. So I set up to put a blanket out on the grass, put a pillow out so when you fall back, you don't hit your head on anything. And they said, bring an eye mask out. If you want to wear it, you can wear your sleep mask. If you don't want to wear it, that's fine too. And beautiful day out. It was probably around 70 degrees, sunny, fresh air.
Middle of the day?
I think it was like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And so I go out and they have like the medical staff is like in a half moon circle behind you. So I'm facing this way. Trevor's right here. He's basically the only person I can see. And then the medical staff is behind me, and I saw they had like a bag valve mask. If something happens, they're gonna bag me, and I'm like, oh shit. And so I didn't know. I was like, holy shit, can you OD on this stuff, or you know, like what's gonna happen?
Right.
You know, what are the possibilities?
Yeah.
You know, what are the repercussions if I get too much of this or I don't come out of it? And I didn't want to go Google it real quick. You know what I mean? Because
no,
you know
freak
how that,
yourself out.
Yeah. And so I was just like, all right. And they just kept saying, like, just like the ibogaine, you have to trust the medicine. Let it take where it's going to take you. Deal with whatever it puts in front of you, whether it's a visualization, whether it's some type of an emotion or intuition, whatever it is, allow it to do what it needs to do. And I'm like, all right. I mean, this stuff like takes a lot of courage. I'm not going to lie. And at least for me, it did. And so I go out, I'm first one. I didn't know how I was like, should I go first? Should I not first? I really don't want to see Marcus Capone screaming, going ape shit, or I go do the exact same because he's a big dude. You know, he's like almost 7 foot tall. And I'm like, man, I'm going. You know what I mean? I was like, I'll go first because if I see somebody else, it might freak me out even more. So I go and I'm like sitting there and I'm like looking at Trent. And he's like, "Are you ready?" And I'm like, "Man, I'm like real this man." And he's like, "It's fine." He's like, "It's gonna be fine. Just trust the medicine. Everything's gonna be fine." And so we did this. So you're supposed to do it 3 times, and they call it a handshake. And he's like, "I can give you like the full thing all at once, or I can do a handshake." And what the handshake is it's kind of like the first, like a handshake, like, "Hey, I'm getting to know you. I'm just going to give you a little bit." And then the second one, I'll give you a little bit more. And then the third one is like the most powerful dose. And I was like, I'll take handshake method. And so we're sitting there and I do it. You know, I do like a long 30-second inhale. Put my arms out. He's like, hold your breath. Start to count backwards from 10. As soon as I started counting, all, I had my eyes closed, all colors, like it was like this explosion of color, like a kaleidoscope of red, magenta, pink, orange, yellow, and it was just like
Wow.
that's all I could see were all these colors, and it was like a kaleidoscope. It just my eyelids were just an explosion of color. I started counting backwards from 10. I don't know if I even hit 7, and I was like, boom, hit the pillow, closed my eyes, still have my eyes closed, I guess, and man, it was the most anxiety I had ever felt, and the most fear I had ever felt in my entire life. And I don't know exactly what my mind was dealing with at that particular moment in time, but I knew it was dealing with a lot of negativity and a lot of stuff. And I just started yelling at the top of my lungs, like, go in there, go in there, get in. I mean, screaming it. And, I feel like I'd never yelled like that before in my life. Like, it was intense. In my, when you get like a muscle spasm? Mm-hmm. In like a very pinpointed part of your body. Mm-hmm. I felt like I had like 50 muscle spasms going all over my body at once, and I all of them were like shaking. It wasn't like a spasm though. It was like, you know what it felt? It was like when you put the TENS unit, like for my back.
Yeah.
When you put the TENS unit, like you can see my back muscles start like doing all these things
jerking
and
around.
and contorting my body. That's what it felt like, but all these little pinned places all over my body, and I could really feel it the most in my back and like right here in my glutes, which come to find out, and in my neck, which is areas that you hold a ton of and that was just shaking. And I was, like I said, I yelled, I think 2 or 3 times, like as loud as I was like, get in there. Like I was telling myself, like, deal with this. Like, this is in front of you. You're going to deal with it right now.
But you don't know what it was.
No, it's a feeling. It's an intuition. I don't know what it was. I can't pinpoint it. I just know it felt like a ton, like all of the bad shit that has happened to me, all the anxiety, all the negativity, everything was just, it felt like it was getting sucked out of my body. And it felt like things were going like light speed, like through my, it felt like it was like going through my veins, and then exiting through my fingers. Because I remember my hands opened up like that, like this, and I could just feel like all this like flowing right out. Same with my toes. It was coming out of my toes, and it was just, there was no visualizations at all. Like the color was gone. It was black, and it was just, it took to like my most vulnerable point I'd ever been in. And then I had, this wasn't a visualization either. This is more of like another intuitive feeling. I felt like there was like this black tar or like goop or something on my heart and like my major arteries. And it felt like goo or tar or whatever, like dripping off. And then and it was a full, like I was 100% like letting this do what it needed. I wasn't fighting it. I was like trying to coach myself and encourage myself to deal with whatever this was. And it was like when you felt that last drop come off of my heart, it felt like it felt like first it had sucked all the bad stuff out of me, like negative energy, traumatic, all that felt like it was like sucked out of my body. It like an extremely fast pace. Then the tar came off, and it felt like it was my ego. It's so hard to describe. It's ineffable. And it felt like my ego was now being sucked out of me. Like I no longer cared about anything. And then I felt, it's like I felt my soul rise out of my chest, and it just kept rising. And nobody knows this, but I'm going to say, but the only feeling that I ever felt that was even somewhat similar to this was when I lived in Colombia. I overdosed cocaine, and all I remember was not being in my body, but I wasn't like I was down looking at myself, but I remember not feeling like I was in my body. And I looked up, and these people were like trying to get me to drink water and like waking me up and all this other shit. And that is, but it was like my cocaine overdose felt like a small fraction of what was happening right now. And once my ego got sucked out of me, it was like the most amazing feeling in the world. The most, and like I said, there was a lot of anxiety right before that, and more than I had ever felt, and way more than I had ever felt. And they brought in like this person to teach us breath techniques before we did the Ibogaine. And I remembered the breathing techniques, slowed my breathing down in my nose, my mouth. And it's like right about almost simultaneous, I thought about the breathing techniques. That's when I felt like my soul was coming out of it felt like my body was melted to the earth, and my spirit or my energy, or whatever you want to call it, was like rising above me. So I opened my eyes, and I was under a palm tree. I remember seeing palm tree leaves, these birds flew over, and I just remember the first thing I thought was, I was like, I can't believe how blue the sky is right now. And actually the first thing I thought was, when I started those breathing techniques, it felt like my breath turned into earth breathing. And also at the exact time, this sounds weird, and whatever. Like, if you don't have a mind, you're not listening anymore, anyways. But I swear, I felt and heard the Earth's vibration. The Earth has vibration. I don't care what anybody says. I felt that. I heard it, and it was like the most beautiful thing I had ever heard in my life. It was the most beautiful feeling I had ever felt in my life. And I swear it was God.
When I was a kid, Mike Tyson was a heavyweight champ, and then he went to prison, And then now he's back, and he's back in pop culture, and he's back fighting now, and all this stuff. But he did the toe journey. People that you trust is who you know your true colors with. For me, it's like a halftime. Because it's like when you think you're done and you open your eyes, that's when the second part kicks in. It's like, whoa. And so they've been sending me these healing things, and I was like, I'm not going to any of that shit, dude. I don't care about meeting another person or famous actor or whatever the fuck's there, And so they sent me some private ones, and this is 5-MeO, DMT. And I've been listening to podcasts that they sent me with Mike Tyson talking about. He did that. And when I was a kid, Mike Tyson was a heavyweight champ, and then he went to prison, you know. And then now he's back, and he's back in pop culture, and he's back fighting now, you know, and all this stuff. But he did the toe journey. I've known Mike Tyson my whole life. And now I'm listening to him doing this 5-MeO-DMT and him saying that it changed his life and all that stuff. I'm like, wow, maybe I have a chance. It has to be powerful enough to do something, you know?
Yeah.
So I got one set up for like a couple weeks from then, you know, a private. But they're going so bad at the time that my wife had came home and was like, you need to do something now. Like, it's gotten like, because I was not in a, you know, I was checked out, dude. And so she was like, you got to find a solution for this weekend. Wait till next weekend. We can't, like, you know. So I hit up.
So it was that bad?
It was bad, dude. I had a bag packed, and I didn't think I was going to be living at my house anymore. I don't know what.
Damn, bro.
Dude. So I remember I went downstairs in my house and I called the shaman. He was like, don't worry, this is going to be the best shoot shake you've ever imagined. And that was the last thing he told me. He gave me all the info where to be that, you know, in 2 days. And so, you know, that next morning I drove up to Stockton, California, like 10 hours, you know, like like a maniac, you know, like, really just like, dude, I was just not at a point where, I was just saying out loud, like I didn't understand about setting intentions and all that before going into that ceremony and stuff, but like, you know, I was basically like, I can't do this anymore, you know, and that kind of shit. And then I got to Stockton, stayed the night, and drove up to the spot the next morning, you know. And when I got there, I was like, man, I was like very scared, so scared. But I have no option left, like, but scared, like my life's ending kind of thing, you know, and like trying to any excuse not to take this last turn to go to the spot, you know. And when I pulled up, it's like there was a car that pulled up and there was a little girl in the back seat that looked at me, that basically gave me some type of like hey signal of like, you're good. And I was like, you know, I find the address, gate code, go park my car, and I get out, and the shaman comes up, you know, like 100 pounds in robes and everything. And like, hey brother, you here? Are you gonna? I'm like, I don't know, man. Doing this thing, and then I don't know. And so he's like, okay. So he takes me to the back. I don't know what any of this is, dude. So they start the ceremony, the healing ceremony.
You don't have any idea what's about to happen?
Transformational experience and all this stuff, but like I don't know who's who there. I don't know that the other girl's actually a healer that works with him, and that this other girl is the only one that's there that's getting healed like me. But there's 4 other people there. 3 of them were healers and 1 of them was getting healed. You know, but I don't know any of, like, I'm just like literally just, you know, boom. And then, so, it's like a warrior's homecoming, dude, is the best way to describe it. Like, it's not anything, you know, people talk about like, oh, well, is it drugs or microdosing or anything like that? Like, this is not anything that you would ever, like, I'm talking about as a last ditch effort, you know, but like, this is nothing that you would do at a club. This is nothing that you would do anywhere where you're out and about. This is like a once in a lifetime type thing, you know, or like people that are suicidal or have serious things that they're working through. That's the kind of stuff. Not like and if you do it, it's not something that you can do. Like, regularly. If
Yeah.
that makes sense. So anyway, it's a hard reset. Just like when your computer messed up and your radio's messed up or whatever it is, and you press it and your phone and you turn it all the way off, you turn it all the way on, and then it works better. It defrags and it functions. That's what I needed. I did turn it off and back on, the hard reset. And I thought I was suicidal, but once I went through that process, I did whatever couple rounds, 5-MeO DMT that day. I haven't drank since before that. So I have more than 3 years of not drinking because what I experienced in that ceremony,
Yeah.
And
What did you experience? What did you feel? You want to share any of that?
yeah, I won't go into like the visions, but I can explain it in that. At first, it's like feeling, like understanding how to surrender and let go, and that grievances don't matter, and all these different things, and all the things that holding me back were just like total bullshit. Like if you get pushed off a cliff right now, does it really matter that you're mad at your sister about this thing that happened? That she said 10 years ago when you're going on deployment. Let it go, dude. Like all those things, it was just like, let it all go. None of it matters, And then it had to reconnect me like with my ancestors and my family tree. And like showing me like to fix all these friend relationships and stuff like that, And then I'm like, whoa. And then kind of the intro, right? The first part, which is like the handshake, where you do a lighter one, Are
you doing the actual toad venom or are you doing the synthetic?
Nah,
I'm just
dude.
curious.
Or toad venom. Yeah, the legit. Like.
Okay. I'm just curious.
Oh, so the thing about the individual journey, because then you do the journey and that's a little bit bigger, right? It's a bigger dose. So that's like what, when you die, what gets released in your brain, that's like the same kind of dose. So then you're through a reset process, in 10 seconds. And for me, that first one was very traumatic.
Yeah.
Traumatic. And, it was like, showed me, like put me through a death situation, and then had me feel the impact on all my people, and it had like a suicide note and some other stuff. So it was like, it hit super hard. It was a life review,
How long did that last?
I mean, dude, the experience, who knows? Like time and space is really gone at that point, but
Yeah.
like 30 minutes, but it took me a couple hours to come back from that trauma, from that dose. So it took me I thought I was dead, dude.
Yeah.
I thought I was like a little kid again. I was in this like rose garden. I was like, I didn't believe that my car was outside, like all that stuff. And I went through like a full death, experience on the back end, but I wasn't feeling that yet. I was feeling that I was gone, and like I was wandering around this crazy place I was at, like a rose garden. There's like a little swimming hole. There's like these little dude, I was like, man, this doesn't look real, man. These guys are 100 pounds in robes. This doesn't look like, I felt like I was like in the afterlife or something,
Yeah.
It was from it was just a divine experience. But,
Did you did you wear a blindfold or did you where did you do it? Were you outside?
the woods, dude. And I was on the ground in the woods. No,
You didn't wear a blindfold.
but
You're the only-
you keep your eyes closed pretty much, because that's part of surrendering. Is like you close your eyes and you flow through the experience.
Yeah.
You kind of have to like, and just like, like follow it, dude. flow
Yeah.
through it and breathe. But what was your question, brother?
That you're the only person I know, other than myself, that did it without a blindfold. But I opened my eyes after the death experience. I opened my eyes, and it was fucking amazing.
Yes, and for me, it's like a halftime show because it's like when you think you're done, and you open your eyes. That's when the second part kicks
Yep.
in. It's like, whoa, and it's a lot of downloads and stuff like that. But when I went into this one, that first one, like, I had zero awareness of any of this stuff, that it exists, that it works, spiritual stuff, like connecting dots of things that are happening, like all that stuff. I had no awareness. I was just moving like direct azimuth, like
Yeah.
I wasn't like seeing the whole picture of things. So it was crazy night and day, because when I left those ceremonies, dude, well, so we did one more to finish off, and that one was like normally you come back, and this one kind of propped me up and was like, this is how you're going to go into your life, like these are the next steps kind of thing. And it was like, I felt then like because I wanted to share my experience at that time with all these people, like with 1 million people, of like, because I was thinking like, dude, imagine all the people that killed themselves if they could have had this or rest their life, dude. Or someone that killed someone, that was like, if they would have had this, they wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. If they would have had access to this, and you wish that. And I was like, dude, I feel like, like, I want to make a huge impact with mental health with this breakthrough that I just had at this thing. This is like when I'm still in my car.
So, if you don't mind, I want to fast forward to when you got home. What'd your wife say when you walked in the door?
What we'd like to know is what happens in the brain specifically by doing a brain map as one way, which is what we did, right? A brain map. By doing that pre and post, right? So there are bigger centers we talked about, which we can find out what's going on. That would be a way, and I think whatever we can use to understand more of what on before and after, and taking care of that person during their experience.
There's been a lot of benefits. Massive. It's not gonna. Other two.
Do you know of any negative side effects from this?
I do not, but I'm not that engaged in that network of people doing that. Although ketamine is another one that a lot of people are using and having benefits, which is not necessarily a psychedelic, but it's another this genre, I would say, where we're starting to try to get changes in people's brain utilizing different pharmacologics, traditional medicine, herbal thing, whatever it might be in this area. So we know that there's benefit to people. Okay, let's just say that. Because I like to say that. What do we know? We know that people are getting benefits. You're one of them. We know that in many of the people, the benefits are longer term. That's remarkable. And even this data, because I've seen people ask you like, is there published research on this? Stanford has published research. But go search Stanford. You're gonna have to do a little work on your own, little legwork. Stanford is publishing data on the use and the controlled use and the processing with the person. So for me, just an individual, buying something, going out in your backyard and doing it is not the way to be doing it. Because there's so much going on that we don't know. I think it's much better in a controlled environment. Signs are being maintained. You have people looking out for you, totally focused on your well-being. I think those are the ways people have to consider if they're considering how they're going to try that. But so there's many different types, right? There's shrooms, there's LSD microdosing, and again, I'm not an expert. There's ibogaine, there's all these ayahuasca. So I think that I've talked with somebody in my field about who's been for more than 40 years. He said, what we'd like to know is what happens in the brain specifically by doing a brain map as one way, which is what we did. Right? So we talked about, I think whatever we can use to more of what's going before. It. I was a teacher. Because a kid doing that's not what I'm recommending. So if someone's going to be cared for, like the group that you were working with, I mean, I thought that was brilliant. I think those men and women are real. Okay, let's do the right thing for these people. I think there's a lot there that we need to look into and continue to research, get data on so that we can better help people, even identify those before they do it that this may not work well for the best option. Because certainly it's not like and that. But understanding who's going to be the best fit for that therapy, I think, would be the next level of how to deliver the psychedelic, very successful way for people so they can get the best out of that if they choose it.
Have you ever heard the way it was described to me, which is probably completely off after listening to you, is it does interrupt the default mode, but the way I understood it is the default mode network kind of gets lazy after time, and it's just a highway of neurons going back and forth. And what I've heard is the psychedelics will throw a roadblock up, and then those neurons have to find new pathways or reopen old pathways, which is there any truth?
See, that's a great statement. So I would say, okay, let's look at how can we determine if we have new pathways? Well, if you did something like a tractography, like on the front of this kind of National Geographic, this is tractography. Now we can see, are we generating pathways? Or we could look at a QEEG, like I showed you, and we can, what was the connectivity before? And what is the activity? So I'll explain this when we talk about your map, is look at how these areas, all those points on the cap, represent different areas of the brain, and how they're talking to each other. And so we can have hyperconnectivity, too much. It'd be like me standing next to you, like yelling in your ear. Your brain can just be screaming away. Or it can be hypoconnectivity, which is like it's not communicating very well between networks.
Okay.
And so then the question is, what did it do? Is it developing synapses? I don't know about that. It might be. It's a connection basically, and I'm going to just make things, connection between two neurons.
Okay.
They synapse. But there's around 80 billion neurons in your brain, and there's 3 times to 10 times the amount of synapses. So they connect all over each other. So if we're developing new highways, we're getting neuroplasticity.
Okay.
Right? So do psychedelics create neuroplasticity? I think you probably know that. Do psychedelics benefit? Yes. Probably. Said so people. Plus your something. Ways that it's so CBD consumption. They're getting which actually It's like,
And the next thing I saw was I saw my head split into two from the top down. Like you draw a center line from the center of my head, down my nose, down my chin, and it like split. Like it was almost like it was peeling. And so it started here, and my head just like went like that, started going like that. And once again, if I tried to focus on it, then it would
Go away.
the minute I'd focus on it, it was just back to normal. But when your head's like splitting like that, it's hard not to freak out a little bit. And, I'm looking at it and it would come back, and then I would look at it through my peripheral vision, and it would start doing this again. And that one, I couldn't help myself from trying to focus on it because it's so weird looking.
Right.
And everything's like perfectly proportioned. Like if your head was to peel and bend, like everything was exactly the way you think it would look. But there's no like blood and guts. I can't see my brain or anything. It's just splitting. And after like 3 or 4 times, and once I got it again, like, all right, just try not to focus on it. Just let it happen. And try not to focus on it. My head was like this, and it kept splitting. And then up the middle of where the top of my head was splitting, like I saw another head come out of my head, and it was my head. So it was like this. It was like this head was peeling, and then another head was coming up of my head, and like started at the forehead, like very slowly. It's not like it just popped up. It was just like very slowly, so you couldn't really tell at first. And it was like, that's my own head coming out of my head. And so I was like looking at that, and right about that time I started to hear that buzz. And it sounded like it was like a buzz I had never heard before. It's a lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about is like really hard to describe or put into words. And I started to hear this buzz, and it sounded like if you can imagine a bee with metal wings like fluttering, and both like just right next to both of your ears. That's what it sounded like. And I was like, there's no way, no, and so I plugged my ears because I was like, this has to be the music. I plugged my ears, and I could still hear the music a little bit, obviously, but got really dubbed down, but that buzzing did not get dubbed down at all. And I could hear my tinnitus, and I could hear like this metal buzzing, and it started really quiet. And it was also like this sensation too, with like a feeling, or maybe, I don't know. Basically, essentially what's happening is you're entering this higher level of consciousness that you've not experienced before, and you're starting to feel all this energy in your body. And when I started to hear that metallic buzz, it started like at the bottom of my spine, like right above my ass, and I could feel it. I could feel it moving up my spinal cord, and as it moved up my spinal cord, it was getting louder, and it wasn't like moving up at like a fast pace. It was like a very slow and steady pace. And I started getting a little anxious. I was like, oh man, like that's This okay. We're going in. I'm like, we're going in. And so I wanted to stay in front of the mirror a little bit longer, so I stayed in front of the mirror. And the next thing I saw in the mirror was, it was like I was wearing a mask. And so there was like this line that went from like the top right of my forehead down to like the bottom left of my chin. But it was like a rigid line, almost like if somebody had like a hockey mask and it got cracked in half. You know what I mean? And on the top portion of my head, I saw it was like I am today, except I had hair. And and on the bottom portion, it was very like weathered, and it looked like if you opened a casket 100 years after somebody died and the skin just started like kind of like coming off. But I wasn't scared, you know what I mean? It wasn't like a horror movie or anything. You could just see like the skin was like coming off, and it was white, like that like white grayish color. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, enough. And by that time, that buzz, it was louder, and I could feel that energy, that chill, like it was like right at my neckline. And the only kind of way to describe the chill is, it's not like a chill like when you're cold. It's like a chill when you're running a fever. You're not cold, but you have like a chill. And that's the chill. It's basically the same thing, but it moves slowly up your spine. And so I laid back, I put the eye mask on, and I looked over. I was the last one looking at the mirror. And I actually wanted to get back up and look at it again later to see if anything else happened. And so rewinding real quick, the black tears, there's some different, I Googled some of this stuff because I think there's a lot of symbolism that's going on. And they basically say that this medicine, ibogaine, they call it iboga as well, that iboga speaks to you in these roundabout ways, and there's a lot of symbolism behind everything. So the black tears had something to do with me not really being happy with myself and who I was, and I think that's what that symbolized. And the other thing it could have been was a lot of grief from friends that I lost, and from the teams and after the teams, and it could have been that, and then my head peeling and mushrooming out of my own head. I think that represented new beginnings. And the mask type thing, I don't know what that was. I'm kind of stumped on. Jesus's face appeared in a rock on the waterfall where the water was splitting over his head and going down both sides. I lose complete concept of time. I have no idea. I don't know how long we were at the waterfall. I don't know how long I was on my hike.
Taking the step.
It's on a silver platter. All you have to do is take it. I took all my clothes off, all of it, and then I went for another hike. The first thing that happened was I started to feel the oneness again. Meaning everything is one since I did my 5-MeO with Trevor. Mm-hmm. I take that. I felt it one time in very, very deep meditation for maybe literally 2 seconds. And then it went away because I tried to
look further into it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I knew what I was experiencing, and I wanted to experience it more. And then as soon as I did that, it went away, and I never felt it again until we were sitting in front of the waterfall that day. And what I felt was that everything that was happening in front of me was all going at the exact same speed. The flies, the stream, the gravity, the water down the waterfall, I felt everything was going at the exact same rate of speed, just in different directions. And I could see once again how everything is perfectly in tune and connected. Right when I felt that, Jesus's face appeared in a rock on the waterfall where the water was splitting over his head and going down both sides, and he had the crown with the thorns on. And I remember looking at it in disbelief, and I kept closing my eyes and opening my eyes. It's still there. And I look away and look at something else for a little while, and then I look back, and he's still there. And we'd looked at that waterfall probably 1,000 times before. And it's almost, and I was just in total disbelief, even knowing what I was seeing. And to be completely honest, still to this day, I have a hard time with it. And I cannot help it. I struggle.
Yeah.
I struggle with my faith. And I just kept looking at it. I kept looking at it, at him. And I was like, holy shit. Me and Nick talked about this. I almost made this my intention, but I didn't. And I don't think I'm ready for this, but it's here. And I sat with it for a little bit, and I just kept staring, and it was not disappearing. I kept thinking maybe it's going to turn into something else. This is probably just the psychedelics. This is just in my head. I'm not supposed to see this. This isn't what I think it is. And then I just sat with it and I let it be. But I still felt your presence. I felt your presence coming in again. And so that's when I got up and I decided I'm going to leave. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know where it was taking me, but I was going to find out. And after I did, that thought kind of went away. And I went on a hike through the streams. And I just started talking to myself. And I was talking to myself about manifestation again. We had a conversation about a nonprofit that morning. And I've had a lot of people tell me, Shawn, you need to get into philanthropy. You bring all these people on the show, you raise lots of money, for all these different nonprofits, which are great nonprofits, but I never really get to see exactly where the funds go. And it's been suggested, I don't know how many times, and me and you had a conversation and it clicked.
Yeah.
It was always, I don't have time. I can't run another entity of this business. It's going to get in the way. That's not me. I can bring light to nonprofits that are doing good. This doesn't have to be me.
Right.
And then you helped me realize more work. It's already here. Just like what we talked about with what you're getting ready to do.
Taking the step.
It's here on a silver platter. All you have to do is take it and start it. And so that conversation popped into my head as I'm talking to myself and manifesting. And remember that crystal shop I went to, and I got that crystal that supposedly amplifies manifestation. And I just had it in my hand and I was squeezing it, and I was putting it in the water and burying it in the dirt and putting it in trees and just squeezing it, talking about everything that I want to do. And in that, when I do both times with you, actually every time I've done the three experiences that I've had with psychedelics, I lose complete concept of time. I have no idea. I don't know how long we were at the waterfall. I don't know how long I was on my hike. I have no concept of time other than what the sun's doing. Mm-hmm. And I had planned out every aspect of the nonprofit that I'm going to start on that hike. I know what we're going to do. I know how I'm going to do it. I know who's going to be with me. I know who the nonprofit's going to help. I'm not going to get into all that yet, but because it's not time. The only thing that did come to me was the name. And it felt amazing. It felt amazing to have that clear, to be able to plan. I mean, it's like putting the entire business plan together, every aspect of it, how we're going to reach people, how it's going to make money, the right putting specific people in specific places within the nonprofit, utilizing their strength. And it'll also help the people that are working for the nonprofit. It's going to help a lot of people.
It's going to be a win-win.
Lot of people.
Win-win for everyone.
It is. And I came to the realization that it is right here in front of you. You have to do is sign the paper. And so that's going to be put into motion immediately. And then I got overwhelmed with happiness. And I wanted to come back and I wanted to tell you about it. And that's when I came back. I saw you weren't at the same place I was, not even close. We had that conversation and you left. You went to get service. And I decided I jumped in the shower and I just kept thinking about it, saying things out loud, what I'm going to do. And I almost went and made a call to all the people, to my entire team, to certain people that I wanted to place within the nonprofit. But I didn't want to, I was like, nope, now's not the time. I'm going to sit with this. I'm going to keep developing and see what else has come. I'm on a roll. I have more clarity than I've ever had. Mm-hmm. I'm ready to dig deeper. So I took more. Took about another grams, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what you...
And then I got out of the shower. I knew you were hungry. And
I was surprised.
And I started the pizza, but then I felt this overwhelming desire to be immersed in nature again. And so I took all my clothes off, all of it, and then I went for another